And all right, welcome back, everyone, to Strange Planet Podcast. And for the season finale of America, we have, tell you, before I even speak on that, it's just like right when you think you've seen it all, you haven't seen shit. It's unbelievable. I mean, let's see what just happened this past week alone. We found out the president of the United States doesn't even know what the Declaration of Independence is. And then in an interview on ABC, he argued basically the entire time with the interviewer that the MS-13, now, long story short, the guy had tattoos on his knuckles. Now, these tattoos were just tattoos. There wasn't anything else besides a couple of symbols, really, that were there. Someone else photoshopped the MS-13 over each knuckle to try to represent what the tattoo stood for. Our president is so fucking stupid that he actually thought that those letters were on the guy's hand, like tattooed on his hand. And they obviously weren't. But yeah, you couldn't tell him no, apparently. And what do you guys have to say about this? I just, it's almost unfathomable at this point.
Um, I'll definitely have to say that Terry had a very interesting interview. He kept trying to blow past it, go to the next question, blow past it, go to the next question. Trump could not let that down.
Right.
Said, no, it's not Photoshop. It was real. I mean, and to describe it to those who are only listening to us through audio devices, all right, a picture a guy with tattoos on his knuckles, a weed plant, a skull, a couple other things. Nothing really definitive of like being symbols of anything. Just
right,
random
right,
shit.
right.
And then someone took the picture and like typewritered over each thing an M, an S, a one, and a three.
Right.
Now,
clearly
you
Photoshop.
exactly. You look at this and you clearly see, oh, someone went over it with some kind of, typing device or typing program that just typed out those letters. No, Trump thought those were real tattoos.
Yep. And you couldn't tell
Real
him no.
tattoos.
Like, I just couldn't believe it. But I will
Yeah,
say one thing about it. I give the moderator a lot of credit because he wouldn't buy into the bullshit. He
oh
kept
no, he
saying, he's
wouldn't.
like, no, that was Photoshop, but let's
That was
move on.
Photoshop. Let's move on. Let's agree to disagree. Let's move on. But no, Trump would not let it go.
Right?
He
Yeah.
would. He was gripping to that like, no, 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 no. It's real. It's very real. I know these people. I saw the picture. Have you seen the picture? You seen the picture? No, no, no. It's not Photoshop. It's very real.
Never ceases a moment to embarrass
Yeah.
the shit out of himself.
I mean, it just goes to show that Trump and his supporters live in an alternate reality.
Yeah.
They aren't really accepting of facts, and they're willing to just make up their own reality in order to suit their purposes. Doesn't matter whether it's completely fabricated or the facts are twisted. He just, projects this reality, and his supporters accept it, regardless of any other information
For
that
facts.
contradicts it.
Blind belief.
Yeah. I tell you.
That's why we say it's like a cult, because in order to have this blind faith in a man who is clearly lying and clearly doing stuff out in the open. This is not like he's hiding all his nefarious deeds. No, he's doing all this stuff out in the open.
Pretty
So
much.
I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean, you saw, during the campaign, Trump and his vice president make the claim that people in, I forget, it was some city in Ohio, maybe, or town, that they were eating cats and dogs.
Yep.
The Haitian immigrant.
Yeah, I remember that.
And
they're eating the cats.
officials,
they're eating the dogs
in the city,
like, no,
some of them were Republican, said, no, that's actually not happening. We don't know what you're talking about. They just continue with it, despite, the contradicting evidence and testimony. And so I just don't understand how people can keep, buttressing his fabrications,
yeah.
despite there being overwhelming evidence to the contrary and nothing in support of the reality that he's trying to create.
Right.
uh
Yeah.
there's really it's a problem too, because if you have media report on the fact that these are fabrications, people in general, but especially MAGA supporters, are extremely distrustful of the media and the lamestream media, as they coined it.
Mm.
They don't believe anything they say, and so really, I mean, it's anything is fair game. You can make up anything, and even if it doesn't have supporting facts,
Right.
I
Right.
mean, it's just someone's opinion, and
Somehow it's a fact now.
if it makes you feel good as a Trump supporter, I guess that's good enough. It doesn't have to be factual.
Right.
They're just
Right.
going to go with that reality.
It's getting a little
And
North Korea,
that's,
huh?
I mean, it's extremely dangerous to disregard factual information.
Yeah.
And I don't see how uh, that gets fixed,
Well, I mean,
because people's minds are already poisoned. They're programmed to accept fabrications without
Mm.
challenging them. And the things that traditionally challenge them, like media, they're distrusted. They're not taken into account. And so
yeah, they're all
I don't know how we get out of this.
Yeah. The
well,
scary part is too. It's like if you're capable of critical thinking, then obviously you're not going to be on this bandwagon.
mhm.
He said he loves the poorly educated for a reason, and this is the reason. So discrediting the media, just like Hitler, and that right there is the first way of poisoning everything. Because now by him doing this, he's the media. Or you believe me, I'm the leader of the cult. You know what I mean? So it's like anybody else, they're all lying. Only I tell the truth. And if you're
Oh,
dumb
and
enough to not be a critical thinker and believe that, and then here we are. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
another dangerous thing is that social media, which has largely taken the place of media in
Right.
many aspects, because in media you have to sit down in front of a TV most of the time. I mean, you can get it on your phone,
That's true
but
too.
these social media apps like TikTok or
Instagram and
YouTube,
Facebook and
Instagram, like, yeah, these social media outlets deliver uh information or misinformation
more than ever now.
on demand and constantly, and they feed you what you want to hear or to see.
Mm,
And there's just Trump takes advantage of this with his own social media network,
right?
Truth Social. So he's telling lies every day on
On a
that.
regular
And
basis.
then you have Twitter. I won't call it X, it's fucking Twitter, okay?
Hunter.
On Twitter, Elon Musk basically has a huge swath of that social media market, and he can tell his own fabrications. And the interesting thing about Twitter is that you have um, Elon Musk able to control what people see. And so I don't use Twitter. I've never really got it.
I don't blame you
It's not really that interesting to me.
at all.
But whenever I just, go on there, um, I'm always presented with stories that Elon Musk would like.
Mm,
They're pro-Trump, and pro-Trump people just, sounding off at the mouth. And, I'm not following any of these people. I have no
yet it
interest
comes
in
up.
them. But, it's presented to me.
Mm,
And people that are perhaps more receptive to that will say, oh, well, this looks interesting. And, click on it, and oh, oh. And they're being bombarded with this information constantly on a daily basis if you're a regular user. And so it used to be the case, like, um, like Facebook, for instance, would do fact checking. That's
Well,
apparently
used to.
no longer
Yeah.
happening. You have, I mean, Amazon. That's another thing in the news.
Yeah, right.
Amazon was apparently going to tell people the charges that they're getting on their
The
uh,
tariffs,
yeah, due to the tariffs on their goods that they buy from Amazon.
which I think they should.
And President Trump didn't like that, and so he called up Jeff Bezos, and that's not happening now. So
It's not
prices
happening
are
now.
going to go up, and we're just not going to really have an accounting for what portion of that price is due to Trump's idiotic tariff policies. It's sad because, and I've said this before on the show, the internet, gives us access to so much information, a lot of misinformation, but really it has the power to transform humanity in really great ways.
True.
We've never had as much access to information as instantaneously as we do now. And what we're choosing to do with that power is dumb.
Yeah.
It's making our society dumb. It's making it a lot harder to ascertain the truth about things. And it's making Americans and frankly people around the world um, more uh, susceptible to things like fascism. It's making people meaner and uh, ill-tempered.
Right.
It's making people, hate other people, and that has always, I guess, been a part of the world, but it's hyper accelerating it in a way that is extremely dangerous because once these beliefs start circulating, uh, on the internet, I there's really no way to stop it. Um,
Right.
yeah, of course, there's freedom of speech, but with that comes
A
the
price.
danger for these, really cruel and bigoted beliefs to just run rampant. And I, you know, I'm at a loss for how to resolve it, but
Right. I'll tell you, it's
it's just
ironic.
something that we need to recognize.
For real. And I'll tell you, it's ironic because the whole concept of social media, you would think, or at least the way it started, was to bring people together. But in reality, it's actually isolating people and tearing them apart now. It's kind of counterproductive. You know what I mean? So, like, now you mix all this and politics, you know what I mean, into the equation. And no one, it's kind of, I don't blame some people for just not knowing up from down because, like, God knows what the fuck they're reading on there. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
like,
And everyone has their own personalized bubble that
right.
the
It's choose your own
algorithms
news.
tailor toward them. And so you're getting different things than what other
They're
people are
getting.
getting. So you don't really know how people are being programmed by the social media that they consume.
Right, right. And then you have to also keep in mind of who owns what, because that's the puppeteer behind the whole thing. So like you like we saw at the inauguration, basically all these, social media CEOs and stuff are all chilling right behind, suckling at the Trump teat. So what do you think they're gonna do to their platforms? Overhype him and try to get people to like him. You know what I mean? So like it's like a cult following, and they're using their product to be a catalyst in that, really.
Right. But the problem existed even before that
True.
because before they switched to the Trump train, that those social media algorithms didn't really care about what information they were pushing to people. All they
Hmm.
cared about was keeping people on those platforms constantly in order to sell them products. So as
Right.
long as they were able to pique their interest and entertain them, who cares what was said or how over time that information or misinformation, could shape their beliefs, could distort their view of reality. Doesn't matter as long as we keep their attention and can sell them products.
Right, right. I have one possible, we'll see what you guys think about this. I have one possible idea that just kind of popped up that might actually be the first step in maybe correcting some of this. But I feel like all of those, news outlets or whatever on social media, pick your poison. They're all the fucking same, really. But there's just like, it seems like hundreds of them at this point, if not thousands. But what if, of
Well,
course, this is
I would
figuratively.
I would disagree with that. There are I would say there are only a few major ones that people consume. You
Well,
have
okay.
TikTok,
But they
Instagram,
all have the same level of misinformation.
Facebook, YouTube. No, they don't have the same level of
You don't think
misinformation.
so?
I don't
I
think
think
so.
Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and
Facebook
they're all
has
in
a
the same camp.
lot of misinformation. I mean, regardless of whether in the same category or not, I'm just disputing the notion that there are thousands of them. Like no one uses like, those small random ones.
No, I don't mean like
They
social
use
media.
everyone. I think the problem, or at least something that's a problem, is that it's so concentrated. There are only few platforms, and they're controlled by obviously Mark Zuckerberg and
Right.
Elon Musk. It's concentrated, and
Just
if
to a few.
the heads of those platforms uh decide that they want to support a particular political candidate, then that sort of has the potential, and I think we've seen it, to shape how that platform operates with respect to Trump.
Right.
Um,
I might have
you've
misspoke.
seen Facebook. You see Facebook take actions that change its platform's policies with respect to reporting news and with respect to uh, you know misinformation. They're not policing it. They're just going to
Not
let
at all.
whatever goes.
I might have misspoke
And
though, because what I meant before was not
okay.
hundreds of social media outlets. What I meant is on all of those, the few social media outlets that there are, at least the most common ones, there are probably hundreds of news, companies and like, yeah, like
Yeah.
things
I
like
mean,
that. You know what I mean? But here's
right,
what I
right.
think they all
Like
should be forced.
anyone can, like, we're here right now. We are discussing news matters, and that means that pretty much anyone can say anything and have an opinion. And
Right.
right now, like um, you know, I believe we have integrity, and we're not just going to say anything that isn't true.
Right. We don't do that.
But you can't say the same for other people. Other people want to
Hmm.
get, clicks and views, and sometimes you got to say some outlandish shit
Right, right.
to capture those views and to go viral. And there's definitely a temptation in that to, go with misinformation. That's how, and there's always a market for that misinformation. Look at Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Alex Jones,
Good example.
made a fortune off of
Lying.
misinformation and
Yeah.
twisting information. And there's always, a receptive audience for, that kind of
Rhetoric.
misinformation,
Yeah.
because people are more and more mistrustful of government. And so they seek out this information so they can get an upper hand in terms of what's really going on behind the scenes. And so they're very receptive to conspiracy theories and misinformation that supports those views and gives them a feeling like, oh yes, I'm getting a handle on what's going on in the world, even though that's, completely not what's happening in reality.
Right, right. Now, one possible solution. Now, I don't think this is going to be the answer per se, but it could be a step in the right direction. I almost feel like, but it's not going to happen because, like we talked about earlier, they took all the, fact checking and stuff off. So, what I'm saying probably won't happen, but it'd be nice if it did. And what it is basically this: what if all of those, like, people writing those articles that are news or, whatever the hell it is, what if they were forced to say, whether it's an opinion or a fact. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, first of all, you're gonna have to convince the social media platform owners to do that.
It ain't gonna happen. That's why I said before I
Um,
even said it. Yeah.
Also, you know, policing that might be an issue. AI might be able to help with that, but in some, in short form content, I guess you could have a transcript and decide whether this is opinion or fact. But some things are opinion mixed with fact.
That's
Um,
true. Mm.
and that's where it gets really tricky. Um, because you could report facts and then have an opinion about it, and that's fine. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with having an opinion on your interpretation of facts. But if you're misreporting facts, if you're saying things that aren't true, that's a problem. Again, it's not illegal, and it's part of our freedom of speech to be able to say things like that. Um, but at the same time, it's really damaging our society over the long run because we have lost the ability as a society to ground ourselves in common truths upon which people can agree. And from those truths, we make decisions as a society that affect everyone.
Mm.
And, without that grounded version of truth, it makes it really hard to make those decisions if people don't even agree on the reality, much less the politics.
Right, right. That's the number one problem with social media. Like we were saying earlier, it's like pick your own news, and like the things they're reading aren't really news. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Well, so you don't even pick your own news. The news is presented to you by algorithms.
right, but they choose to follow, A, B, and C or whatever. And if those things aren't real,
Mm,
they're walking right into a rabbit hole.
right. No, no, no. But
Yeah,
most of the time when you're scrolling through social media, you're not like going in a search bar and searching for things. It's presenting it to you as you scroll.
that's a good
And
point,
it
though,
already
too.
knows what, pushes your buttons, what entertains you. And so it's delivering that right to you. So you don't even have to seek it out.
Right, right. And that is true, too. That is. Um, I guess getting back to the clown that is Trump,
Yeah.
let me ask you this now. The first quarter, if I'm not mistaken, the GDP was already negative, right?
Yeah, it was
So if
slightly negative.
that happens
Yeah, and
again,
if
we're
it
back to a
happens
recession.
again, that is the traditional definition of a recession. 2 quarters of negative gross domestic product growth.
Right, right,
So, I mean, we hate to say I told you so,
right.
but it I mean, when you have this idiotic tariff policy that one day there's these tariffs and another day they're off or delayed or raised or low, like business owners cannot make predictions based on some random choices in terms of how you're uh, going to tax or put tariffs on products. And so, like, if you're a business owner, like, you can't really predict how your business is going to do in even the near future because you don't know whether to go out and hire workers. You don't know whether to stock up on products that are going to be pricier in the next few months. You don't know whether to buy components to build products that might be
Mm.
pricier in months. You just don't know. And that uncertainty is a bad environment for not only businesses, but also for investment. And so, you know, investors are shifting their money out of the stock market and business owners are really really struggling and going to be
Especially small
struggling
businesses.
because it's yeah, especially small businesses. Like large businesses, you know,
They'll be all right.
it sucks, but they'll be able to, tread water until some semblance of consistency is produced by this administration. But until then, you're just having some random ass policies that are, you don't know whether they're here today, they might be gone tomorrow, who
Right.
knows? And he just set the world on fire with, these tariffs that, you know, really have no point. At
Right.
first he was
Right.
saying, "Oh, we're doing these tariffs because there's no border security. We want Canada and Mexico to like do something about the border." He didn't say what. He wasn't definitive. He didn't, set any metrics by which those countries could say, "Okay, if we do A, B, and C, these tariffs will go away." He didn't do any of that, so they don't really know what to do. And then China, oh, you know, it's like we yes, there is a trade imbalance with China. Uh, their standard of living is a lot lower than ours. Um, and yeah, like they have factories that produce products. Their workers make a lot less money.
That's the
Okay.
catch. Yeah.
So I guess we could manufacture things in this country, but the workers would have to be paid what the Chinese workers make, or maybe, a little bit more because we don't have to transport it. But ultimately, like the prices of the goods are going to have to go up then. So, it's like we need to focus on what the future of our economy is. And that involves, services, but also it involves obviously creator economy. But we have to really transition to something other than manufacturing because
Right. Right.
other countries that have those capabilities and their workers are willing to accept less money, they're just going to beat us. We're able to transport goods, quickly enough around the world through our ships and planes, and we're able to do that at an extremely efficient rate. This isn't, 100 years ago where, you send a ship and it takes like weeks to get there. It that's just not the case anymore. And
Real.
so, you know, we're a global economy, and isolating ourselves and saying we're going to make everything here, um, it's just not realistic.
At all.
And even if we do, it's going to be more expensive. And workers are already underpaid relative to how much the corporations they work for generate. And so, I mean, w- we're gonna have to like, okay, if CEOs are willing to pay their workers more, then maybe that's we can talk about, bringing some manufacturing jobs back here. But
Right.
until that happens, it's a moot point.
Right. It just doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? It seems just purposeless. But let me ask you this now. Say the second quarter does become negative, and you can't spell recession without R, but like say we do go back to that, and there's another recession now, and then say he continues with these national embarrassments on a weekly basis. Do you think that the Democrats might crush the midterms because of this, or at
I
least
mean, there's
something?
no reason to think they won't, but at the same time, I don't think that makes much of a difference
That's what
this
I was
time
thinking.
around because Trump doesn't appear to be relying on congressional power to get things done at all. He's relying upon executive orders and frankly just doing whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah,
Um,
for real.
and Congress isn't really doing that much.
Nope.
Nope.
I guess they're going to pass a budget, but That's about it. Yeah, I mean, he already took over the job of cutting spending at departments and eliminating departments all by himself. Um, that's supposed to be Congress's job. Congress is supposed to be able to fund our government, but and to create departments and ultimately to destroy them, uncreate them.
Hmm.
But Trump seems to do that on his own, and he doesn't need Congress. Um,
Yeah, that's the way
and
they
the
set it
Supreme
up for him.
Court lets him apparently do whatever the fuck they want. And um, when they do speak, it's like they get ignored. Like they told them to bring um, Garcia, the guy we were talking about earlier.
Hmm.
They told him, bring him back from El Salvador, and Trump administration's like, no, I don't think so.
Imagine,
No, I'm just not going to listen to a court order.
right? Just ignore it, like he did everything else in his life.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
now apparently we're jailing judges and threatening to jail governors. Like it's
a circus.
well, no, it's fascism, but
Or fascism. Yeah, yeah.
no, there's nothing funny about it. It's
No, it's
fascism.
sad. It's really what it is.
It's one thing to call it a circus. That's like entertainment. This is not entertaining.
Yeah,
This
no,
is fucking
real life
fascism.
here.
But
Yeah.
at this point, little things are happening here and there. It's not really, I guess, high on people's radar. People are distracted. They're struggling with their own lives and whatever. But it's it, Trump is just really testing the waters and the scope of his power, and he is not being effectively checked. And so he's just going to do a little bit more, do a little bit more, do a little bit more, and see how much, I guess the Congress is willing to allow,
Mm.
the Republican Congress.
Yeah. It's pretty much where we stand at this point.
For me, it's always the grift is real when it comes to him.
Yeah.
Like the whole Melania coin before he got into office.
Oh, and the Trump coin. Yeah.
Right?
Well, Trump coin, yeah. Oh, let's have a nice private meeting with all these people who have a lot of money. They'll invest in. We'll put it out as soon as I become president. It'll go up from something like that. I'll make $80 million and bye. A billion. I don't even remember what was it, million or billion.
Oh, it was billions.
No, it
Definitely
was
billions.
B, yeah, billion.
And I'll say this whole tariff thing, where he's like, "Oh, I'm going to put it on pause. I'm going to take it off pause and put it on pause." Well, if you ruin the economy and all those lovely, expensive, you know,
Which he blames on Biden.
yeah,
Yeah.
with but like,
Yeah.
how do you end up making stuff cheaper in the stock market so you can buy it? You fuck with the fucking economy. So he did that. The stock market crashed, and all his minions with the millions and billions of dollars could buy up stuff that people were selling, keep kind of stock market going back up. And at the end of the day, they have more, we have less.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's always the grift with him. It's just
Yeah.
another way to make money. How many TV shows can I go on, regardless of if I believe or not what they're going to ask me? That's all about the money. How many fucking rallies can I hold until I'm blue in the face? It's all about that money.
That's what cracks me up about him. What you were saying before, a couple of months ago, Trump was, bragging that, oh, the economy's doing so great because of me. I'm doing it. Now that it's dropped, somehow it's Biden's fault.
Yeah,
What sense does any of this make? Like,
but that's the thing. None of it makes sense.
yeah, at all.
It's like trying to reason with an animal. It's just, you ever seen that video of that girl who has like a canoe and the bear is like sniffing at the canoe and he starts like fucking with it and chewing on it, and she's like, "No, bear, no,
I don't think
stop
I
it,
saw that
bear."
one.
It's hilarious because she talks to the thing like she expects to be a Disney princess, and the bear will understand and leave the canoe alone. No, she sprays it with bear mace, and it gets pissed off, and it just starts eating the shit out of her fucking canoe. And she's sitting there and she's like pleading with the thing, like, please stop, it's not even food. It's one of the most hilarious things you ever see. But that's people's mentality these days. Like, oh, I can just talk to an animal and it's not going to do something. No, you can say anything you want to a bear or a moose in the woods, and it's still going to come at you if it wants to. So just that we know that these people that exist in this world where reality is, I guess, a screen away, where you understand what happens in the real world, and then you see what happens on the other side of that screen with, your gummy bears and, your Love Islands or whatever the fuck, TV shows people watch nowadays. You can get anything on there. So I think it's like you said, people live in their bubbles. They're comfortable. They don't want to come out. They don't care for a reason. They say, oh, yes, someone who promises change and he'll lower egg prices. Then what's the first thing that happened? He didn't lower egg prices.
That cracks me up altogether, man. Because they were complaining that the groceries were already too expensive.
The egg prices crack you up, no pun intended.
It's sad because we live in this country that we love so much, and yet we have people like this that are out there who don't have the common sense to see, someone getting yourself robbed.
Yeah, for real. Bad. And all right, everyone. That's all we got for this week. As this is a milestone for Strange Planet Podcast. This is our 100th episode. So we thank everybody for watching during the past couple of years, and we're planning on continuing on strong. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you next week. Thanks for watching. Peace.
Thanks, guys.